Come along with us on Prairie Sportsman as we discover the hidden gems of Minnesota, including the Casey Jones State Trail, often dubbed the Trail Minnesota Forgot. Next, we're out with DNR researchers who are using thermal imaging drones to track whitetail fawns. And we'll join Nicole Zempel for a fast forage. Welcome to Prairie Sportsman. I'm Brett Amundson. We got another great show for you, and it starts right now.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, and by Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org, and by Live Wide Open, Western Minnesota Prairie Waters, and the members of Pioneer PBS.
We have over 600 plus miles of paved trail in the state of Minnesota, yet southwest Minnesota we only see 14. This is the Trail Minnesota Forgot. After 55 years, it's time for us to tell our story.
There's not a lot of opportunities for bicycling in southwestern Minnesota, but this is one place that there is.
In the late 1960s, this railroad right-of-way was acquired by the Minnesota Conservation District, and in 1967, the legislature made it a Casey Jones State Trail. On May 16, 1970, it was actually opened and dedicated as Minnesota's first segment of cross-country recreational trail.
We've got 8 miles of paved trail from starting in Pipestone and going almost to the city of Woodstock. There's an additional 2 miles of gravel trail that connects us to Woodstock.
This is considered a dual tread trail. There's a horse trail, and then it's walking, biking. It is non-motorized, except for snowmobiles. So in the winter, snowmobiles can use it.
Of the state trails I visited in Minnesota, this is by far the most premier prairie trail. I biked the Root River Trail and a few others of our state trail, and they go through some fantastic forest. But what you miss is that landscape that exists in southwestern Minnesota. Over the years, some of it has been grazed, but we've got native prairie right through the middle of this trail, and really spectacular. The wildflowers here in June, July, and August are fantastic. Actually, our state trail corridors are open for public hunting and really nice opportunities for pheasant hunting along the trail, as well as just a good opportunity for people to bike through prairies.
But it was in 2005 we actually put together a master plan. It reignited this group called the Friends, actually put it together, and it reignited the desire for a trail. We want to be consistently getting money and funding so that we can realize our vision of we have a 100-mile vision to actually Redwood Falls. In the 2021, DNR received $840,000 to rehabilitate the north segment of the Curry Loop Trail, and we received $700,000 to continue and pave the last final 2 miles to Woodstock. And we've attempted several times on the state bonding dollars, but we're usually cut. Trail's an easy cut, especially down here.
Here, the railroad grade that the Casey Jones sits on, the existing parts of it, we own just about all of it. But a lot of the railroad grade has been removed over the years, and that could tie into it and is currently farmed. There's just not a lot of that railroad grade to purchase. We're sitting in some of the best farmland in the world, and so getting that land for trails is a hard sell to a lot of our neighbors.
I remember when I first started on the Friends group, We actually had a town meeting in Lake Wilson, and you have there's just some unwilling landowners. And so sometimes property changes hands, and we just continue looking for alternate routes, or we will attempt to get the rail bed from the landowner. It would actually become a destination trail, 10 miles to Woodstock, eat, get something to drink. You actually will cross the Buffalo Ridge, which contains all the wind towers, which you can see in the background here. And then you'll come down into Lake Wilson. We offer two lakes. We have the North Lake and the South Lake. You continue on to Hadley. There's excellent fishing in the lake there. And in Slayton, they have a lot of history there. There's museums there. And then there's what they call the Curry Loop over at Curry, Minnesota.
The idea of trail came about in the early 1990s, and finally with construction and opening in about 95, 96. When the trail was first established, it was a cooperative effort between Murray County and DNR, so it wasn't considered a state trail, it was considered a regional trail. That's the 6.2 mile loop. About 10 years later, Murray County, for whatever reason, decided to step away from that. And then with the trail kind of hanging out there, it became part of the state trail system, and then therefore became known as the Casey Jones State Trail Curry Loop. With the hopes that someday the trail was going to make a full connection from Pipestone all the way through to the Curry Loop, and then eventually up to Walnut Grove and Redwood Falls. So it opened up to people a whole new part of the park that they wouldn't normally see before. It gives them appreciation for the lake, for the prairie along the way. When it was first built, the trail surface was nice and smooth, so we had a wide variety of uses on the trail. We had rollerbladers, skateboarders, along with bicycles and hikers. But as the years went by, the trail condition became much worse, so it's no longer a usable trail for rollerbladers or skateboarders. It's pretty rough. A lot of that asphalt has been eaten away, so that you see just a lot of the pebble material that the asphalt was laid down with. A lot of cracks have developed. We have done work over the years with doing patching, trying to crack seal it, just trying to keep it up so that it's at least usable for walkers and bikers. But what will happen, hopefully next spring, the construction on redoing the stretch, the 2.5 mile stretch from the park office, following the roadway up to the corner at Trail's Edge General Store and Cafe. The trail will be totally milled down the current surface. The trail has to be made a little wider because it was built at a time when we didn't have that width standard. And then the trail crossings will also be ADA accessible. Our visitorship from the Twin Cities area has been rising every year because they're discovering what a nice place we've got down here. It's not just open grass and nothing else. We've got trees, we've got lakes, we've got trails. Lake Chetek is the largest lake in southwest Minnesota. We get a lot of people that come here just to recreate. So you're able to do a wide variety of fishing, northern walleye, catfish, the sunfish, bluegills, that kind of thing in the lake. They're able to water ski and do all the water recreation on the lake. And they find that it's such a nice paradise, I guess. Not what they're expecting, but in a good way. And the Friends of Casey Jones State Trail has been awesome. They have been really promoting, talking to the state legislators, trying to get funding, trying to talk to landowners along the trail recently, get this a trail that can equal some of the other state trails in distance and landscape.
Every community has something to offer. Every mile of trail in the state of Minnesota has a story to tell. It can actually bring tourist dollars. It can have an economic impact. We have unique tourism in Pipestone. We are one of the only 2 cement water towers in the state of Minnesota. And then we have a historic downtown. We have a Pipestone National Monument. So tourism really supports Pipestone, supports Southwest Minnesota. We are bordered by the states of Iowa and South Dakota, and that just gives us, there's an enormous potential to connect with those different states. One good thing that we've learned from the pandemic is more people want to be outside, and we want to create that safe haven for them to be there. We have a lot to offer here. We might not have a lot of trees. I know I've heard comments that, well, it's just prairie out there, there's nothing to see, but there is. The rolling hills, the grass, the tall grass prairie, it's beautiful. Wildflowers, just the wide open space, freedom.
We saw a doe come busting out of the cover. We figured that was probably the mom, and she came running and ripping across the road.
People use sumac in tea, in lemonade because of that lemony flavor. I love to dry these berries.
What's it like to be a deer in Minnesota? They face a lot of danger from predators like coyotes, wolves, and black bears, and they have to be careful crossing roads. Having the right amount of proper habitat is important to sustaining a healthy population of deer in the state. Figuring out what that is rests on the shoulders of wildlife biologists with the Minnesota DNR. Today we're south of Sleepy Eye with a group of biologists who are searching for fawns. They also have a specialist armed with a thermal drone, giving them a huge advantage in finding the newborns hidden in the tall grass. The thermal drone technology has revolutionized the way whitetail research is done. In the past, you'd get 20 to 30 people to grid search a property looking for fawns. It might take all day to find 1 or 2 animals using that method. Now a crew of 5 to 6 can locate each fawn, take samples and measurements, and be done within a couple of hours. This research is funded by hunting licenses, so being more efficient will allow for more research and data to help manage the deer herd in Minnesota. All right, so the drone's in the air. I want to see what they're looking at and what that drone's doing exactly. So what's your name?
Brian Haroldson.
Brian Haroldson, what are we looking at right here?
What we're showing here is some of the thermal properties. This is just a color palette that displays the colors. The hotter the temperature, the brighter the color. So you'll get the bright yellows and the whites when we find a fawn. And the cooler the temperature, the darker the color. So you get into the purples and the blues.
We thought we got here pretty early today. I mean, we left at 3:30 this morning and got down here kind of before sunrise. You guys have already been here for a couple of hours.
We start at 4 a.m.
4 a.m. Yes. And so how many fawns have you already seen out here today?
We've had 8 thermal signatures. We can't confirm them prior to enough daylight with the regular camera, but based on the shape and the size of the image and the brightness, we're pretty confident that they're fawns. And then once you get enough light, we use the standard camera to also confirm that they are indeed fawns. So 2 of them we know are fawns.
What else have you been seeing on here? Other sorts of wildlife?
So here, this is mostly an upland grass field. So there are going to be some upland birds, perhaps some turkeys, certainly some pheasants. In some wetter areas, you'll see ducks, geese, nests, raccoons, just a variety of wildlife.
There we go.
Oh, there's one walking next to it too. It looks like something.
This could be a bird, like a pheasant.
Pretty small.
Kind of tell them the strut.
Sure. Love it.
Looks pretty small. We'll confirm camera.
A skunk.
That's the first skunk we've had.
That's an amazing camera to be able to pick out and see that well at 200 feet like that. And it wasn't a fawn. It wasn't a pheasant. It was the first skunk that they've gotten on camera this morning. We're still looking. I was gonna make a joke like, that stinks, but dad jokes.
Well, I was just
Thank you very much. I'll be here all week.
Like, have you guys ever been skunked? And I was meaning, like not finding a fawn in a field. He's like, oh yeah, many times. And then we run across one that's actual skunk.
That would have been a way better joke than the one I came up with. So the beauty of this time of year is fawns don't really know anything other than just laying down and hiding. They don't have a lot of scent. So if they stay still, predators won't see them. That's what makes it so easy for these guys, once they locate the fawns, to be able to just go right up and do the collaring. Now, why the heck are they doing this collaring and how are they going to do it? Let's go check it out. So there's 2 confirmed fawn sightings right out here. We think they're twin fawns. So we're in a hurry to get out there right now to meet up with the research team that's out there doing the collaring. And as we got closer here, we saw a doe come busting out of the cover. We figured that was probably the mom. And she came running and ripping across the road. And that's to obviously move away from humans, but also to draw us away from where her fawns are hiding. So we know they're up here. We're gonna go meet the team and try to see these fawns. This is gonna be cool. Tyler Obermiller is with us. You're kind of the project manager or lead, or what would you say here?
Yeah, I work for the DNR as a wildlife biologist, but I'm also going back for my PhD and doing this fawn survival research. So
you've been doing this study for a couple years already?
Yeah, well, we started this study in 2019 where we brought the drone out and really tried to fine-tune that method. And then in 2020, we really started that study where we collared 75 fawns and monitoring for survival, causes of mortality, getting out in the field a lot, doing a lot of habitat work, and yeah, we're in for our 2nd season now. At what point, like how much data do you need before you can start realizing trends or realizing some results? I mean, ideally, you'd had 5 to 7 years of data. This study we're going to do 3 years, where we really should be able to get some nice trends, get some high sample sizes. 75 fawns per year is actually quite high. Usually is around 40 to 50, so we're getting some really great sample sizes, and we should be able to really figure out what's happening down here. And you got another one up here that we're going to go check out? Yep. Yeah, we'll walk up there. We have a very accurate location from the drone, so we actually use our phones to get in on that. We'll go in there, the fawn will be laying down there right there. They hardly ever move, so we just put our hand on it. First thing we'll do is we'll put a cover over its eyes. That tends to calm it down, reduces stress, and allows us to better handle the animal. And then we'll first try to take blood. So we're done with the blood. Now we'll start taking some body measurements.
98.6 the temp.
One of the first things we'll take is the upper and lower body, or neck measurements, and that's just so we can get a good idea how we're doing with the collar circumference and how that'll fit throughout its age. 31 for chest. Doing a total body measurement next is just a good indicator of survival. 70. Did you get a sex yet?
No. Nope.
It's a male.
Male.
Umbilicus is not present.
1.9 for hoof.
Okay, get ready for body weight.
Yeah, here's the back up. The bag.
Right hind is 25.
Do you have the measure?
Yep, I do.
Right hind is 25?
Yep. And one of the last things we'll do is look at a weight. And after that, we'll put the ear tag on and then the collar, and we're out of here. 3.74. 3.74. Ear tag we put in just in case we lose the collar. We can potentially find it later, whether if it was harvested by someone during the fall, or we may just find it for a roadside kill or something like that, a vehicle collision kill. Slide this expandable collar on. Help out, and then everyone get out. I'll release it. And these expandable collars are really nice because what they allow us to monitor this fawn all the way throughout birth until 18 months. So each one of these has a bunch of folds on it, and it expands as it grows. So it's really great. So that's a good capture, and we'll head out of here.
The collars are designed to fall off after 2 years. The research team will recover the collars and download additional data. So that went pretty well?
Yeah, that went really well.
How old do you think that fawn was then?
Maybe 3 days old.
3 days?
Yep. Yeah, it had a dry umbilicus. It was present, so yeah, probably 3 days, less than 5 for sure.
And how much did it weigh?
3.74 kilograms. So we do kilograms, so 8 pounds roughly.
That's pretty common for that age?
Yeah. Yeah, we range. We caught a big one yesterday that was 7.6 kilograms, so 15 pounds, so big one. Probably the biggest one we've ever caught.
Jeez.
But then we're catching some that are 4 pounds as well. So
that big one, was it a buck?
I can't remember if that was a male.
Could you just keep me updated on its GPS location at all times?
Yeah.
Especially in about 5 years?
Yep,
That'd be great.
yep.
How long will you do this for?
So our goal is to get 80 colors out. We have 36 plus, I think we have 4, so we have 40 out so far. So we're half done, 8-9 days of total captures.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's going really well.
All right, let's go find another one.
All right.
When the crew is done with a fawn, they'll leave a flag in its place. That will allow them to come back in 1 to 3 days to monitor the habitat that the deer were using. They also utilize that location to determine how far deer are dispersing, and while most historical data has indicated that most home ranges are just a few miles, these collars are revealing some long-distance travelers.
One of the things we've had happen that just happened recently is, like I said, we're monitoring for dispersals, and we've just had them start going. We've had some really long dispersals. So one that actually was captured around here, is a little bit north of here, is almost all the way up by Waconia. So it's almost, traveled 70 miles.
Oh, yeah.
And that's total path length, and that's the total distance from straight line distance. The entire path that animal took is, maybe 80, 90 miles, maybe more. It really navigated all the way past the Minnesota River and up all the way up there. And we're not even sure if it's done moving yet. So, we modeled deer at a deer permit area limit. So each deer permit area gets their allotted number of harvests. So what we're trying to do there is see how far they're dispersing out of those deer permit areas, and that can help us better manage for a population in the future and set harvest limits.
So biologists will use data from this research to determine how many deer are in a certain area. Those numbers can then affect the harvest goals for deer hunters. There it is.
All right, let's head to the next one.
So right up there, the drone, is that drone just hovering over it right now, you think? Are they looking at it, or are they
over a new one?
Might be over a new one? We got another confirmed fawn sighting, and we're gonna head there right now. Sounds like we're about 50 feet away from one of these fawns, and there's 2 of them out here. So should be able to see some little deer babies here pretty soon. Once again, the team sprung into action and quickly got the data needed for this research project. The collars that they're putting on cost between $400 and $500 a piece. They record the animal's location 6 times per day, allowing the research team to track the movements of these fawns. They'll know what habitat's being used, and that will help them make management decisions down the line.
Once again, we have these collars that are on for 18 months. We're getting that dispersal at 12 months, seeing how far they're moving, what they're selecting new ranges, where they're going, and also 18 months during that fall dispersal when those larger males are kicking those yearling bucks off to new home ranges.
A lot of coyotes around here?
Yeah. So that is the main cause of mortality we've had in the first year, and we expect that to continue this year. And that's one of the things that we're really interested in kind of expanding on that. We know that coyote mortality is really important in this range, but we want to learn more, and that's why we're taking our body measurements, blood, so we can look at some predisposing factors that may be causing mortality or making them more susceptible to coyote predation. And that's including habitat too. We're taking habitat at each one of these capture sites. We're taking them at the mortality sites and trying to learn more about where they're being predated upon.
Have you collared some and then found them dead pretty recently?
Yeah, so we collared one just 3 days ago, and yesterday we had a coyote kill. One of the reasons why we really started or wanted to conduct research down here is because we haven't conducted a study like this in 20 years down in this area. 20 years ago, there was a lot, the landscape was a lot different. The coyote population was a lot different. So we really didn't know a lot. And so we were really interested in just getting a really better idea of coyote mortality and exactly how they're moving across the landscape so we can better inform our deer population model going forward.
And we need better fur prices, I think, is what we're going to find out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. In the spring of 2022, the DNR captured 91 fawns over 9 days at the end of May. 43 of those fawns died. 34 of those were killed by coyotes, 3 got hit by cars, 3 were hunter harvests, and 3 were health-related. This research will continue into 2023 with a capture goal of 100 fawns. The more biologists know about wildlife and the habitat they use, the better the wildlife's going to do. And with a healthier deer herd in Minnesota, it will increase opportunities for deer hunters across the state.
We are standing next to staghorn sumac. Obviously, you can see the colors have popped with the leaves. It's something that really stands out in the fall. It's just a beautiful, eye-catching plant, and the berries are absolutely fantastic. So late summer into fall, I love to harvest sumac berries. And so what I do is I just clip the tops here. I always leave some on, but I will take kind of the top portion of the cone. And you can see these are actually berries, and they kind of look like little fuzz on the berries. There's a tart, tangy, lemony flavor. It is fantastic. People use sumac in tea, in lemonade because of that lemony flavor. I love to dry these berries, take them off the cones, and then grind them up into sumac spice that I use as rubs on fish or chicken, really on anything. Sumac is a fantastic kind of pop of that lemon flavor, and it's very, very rich in nutrients as well.
Funding for Prairie Sportsman is provided by the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, and by Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farm, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org, and by Live Wide Open, Western Minnesota Prairie Waters, and the members of Pioneer PBS.